Hello and welcome to Andy and Iain Talk Networking. I am Andy.
And I'm Ian.
Hey Ian, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Andy. I'm doing really great. It's a
Good, good,
beautiful Tuesday here in real time. Very exciting.
good, good. Yeah, so Ian, we've talked a lot of different subjects. Kind of got a little bit packety, guru, because that's because we're both geeks. But anyway, we've gone and got pretty deep in the payloads and the packets and string searches and hardware accelerators and packet brokers and all this other stuff. I want to kind of come way, way up the stack and do some more hypothetical discussions here this week. And let's talk about the convergence of network operations and security operations and first of all, why it's important that kind of the two are kind of more closely coupled than perhaps they have been in the past.
Mhm.
You and I both know that generally the security team kind of come in, they lock themselves in a room, and they just tell people where the problems are, versus the NetOps guys that are generally running around just fault finding and putting out fires. But in the future, going forward, we need to be more cognizant of those teams working together. So I think this is a good kind of really hypothetical discussion that we can have about how we see the convergence. This is not just kind of the world industry is everybody's going to converge, but how we see the
Yeah.
convergence of the NetOps and SecOps teams going forward.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of different pieces, and as I say, I appreciate using the word with hypothetical, but the point being is that I think this is a real thing, or at least teams are being asked to be more friendly with, shall we say, the
Collaborative.
other side.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Um, and historically we saw NetOps teams deploying all of the, in our case, taps, packet
Yep.
brokers, all of that stuff. And
Infrastructure
then
stuff. Yeah.
and then you would have the SecOps team doing the tools, right? And I suppose that's pretty standard kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. The point being is that now, those teams are maybe kind of sharing information or sharing statistics or sharing, kind of,
Packets and yeah.
yeah, that kind of thing. There's more of a working together, and there's probably lots of different reasons. I suppose in some sense it probably comes down to the cash, right? I mean, obviously, businesses are trying to run more efficiently. Teams, you know, you may want to have 10 or
Yeah.
15 people on your team, but actually you probably can't find all of those people. You've maybe only got a few less than that, and therefore actually partnering up with the smart people on the other side of the wall is probably a good step forward. And how to do that, I suppose, is the
Yeah.
it's kind of like porcupines, you know what I mean? It's all well and fine, but it's complicated, kind of
Yeah.
thing. And
Yeah. And I
it's a
think
lot of stuff moving parts there.
kind of when I look at it, I think a lot of the times, you've got the NetOps guys who generally are dealing with kind of keeping the network up, they're keeping it stable. They're also dealing with a lot of application level problems like Salesforce is down, or you're kind of I can't log in with my credentials, things like that. So they tend to be a lot more maybe on that side of it. Whereas the security guys are very CISO focused on we've got a DNS breach, we've got a DDoS, we kind of got beaconing, we've got all these kind of problems. So they've traditionally, I think, been kind of on the outside of the network, looking at kind of protecting what's coming in. But now with all this malicious software and these state-run actors that are attacking networks from the inside, they're having to come more into the local area or into your hybrid network and see what's going on and checking the server capabilities. They have to run compliance audits on everything that's running within the network. So I think you're starting to see kind of the overlap of kind of the functionality or where they need to operate.
Yes.
Whereas in the past maybe they were a little bit more siloed. They're definitely a lot more of an overlap now, and that
Yeah.
has a huge impact on the tools that they run. So your SecOps guys really have their set of, like you say, their NDR tools that they're running, and then the NetOps guys were running their tools. But now they need to be able to access each other's network to a certain extent, and they need the data bringing into the tools. And now then it becomes the guy with the best data wins. And
Yes.
again, it really comes to the SecOps guys. They need to have a lot of kind of packet level data to understand where the attacks are coming from, what those attacks are. The NetOps guys, they need the packet level, but for different applications.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think as I say, a really critical few points there. the SecOps teams need more accurate information.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've been getting the packets from the taps and the spans and from the brokers and all the other things that we've spoken about on in our little chats. But the point is they need to see it all
Yeah.
because the attacks are getting more pervasive, exactly as you said, and
Yeah.
also they're getting more complicated,
It's
literally.
definitely more sophisticated for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sophisticated, and therefore you need to make sure you don't miss any of that packet data that you need to be able to kind of just
Yeah.
get that packet or that conversation or that kind of component of the packet, and you need to be able to see it all.
Yeah.
And I think the teams working together. I'm a friendly guy myself. I like to see all the teams working together, but I think as you see these kind of teams that have been historically very disparate. I think it's exciting to kind of see them coming together, but there is a kind of a conversation which is kind of different. How they talk about things. As you
Yeah.
said, they talk security, but looking at kind of vulnerabilities and these kind of things, whereas the network operations team maybe looking at apps and
Yeah.
as you said, Salesforce and other CRMs are available, but Salesforce is down. Things like that. It's a slightly different
Yeah.
language, and I think that if the teams that
Yeah.
I think the teams, just to kind of say it, I think the teams that are able to understand each other and
Yeah.
really get that data right and the conversations correct about who owns what and how everything's going to work together, and let's have coffee at 10 a.m. on Fridays or whatever. The point is to bring that relationship together. I think they're going to be more successful
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
future than teams that keep that never the twain shall meet kind of approach. Maybe that's a little harsh to say, but I think that the teams that are able to work together will be more successful in the
Yeah.
future,
And
whatever their range of tools and capabilities.
yeah, and I think there's another part of aspect as well, which is the way that the teams operate. Maybe is slightly different. I mean, you take your network operations team; they tend to do a lot more kind of incident resolution. So they're very much, you're coming in the morning and it's like, okay, well, now my network's 10% slower. So okay, let me trawl through some data and some logs, and I'll figure out exactly what. Okay, I've changed something on the load balancer, and I can adjust it, and it's better.
Yep.
Whereas your security ops teams are really focused on incident detection. So
Yeah.
they need to be able to identify there's a problem, identify where the problem's coming from, which services are being affected, and they need to be able to do it, very quickly, because once that security incident starts, it can take your whole network down. So,
Yes.
if your DNS or your load balancer starts going slow, your whole network doesn't generally grind to a halt in 5 seconds. Whereas, when you've got an incident or an attack or a DDoS or something like that going on, it can take you down, as X has found out multiple times, with these coordinated DDoS attacks. They
Yep.
can go offline for many hours while they're trying to figure out exactly what's going on. So I think that there's definitely an aspect of the tools you need the same data. Both people need the same data, but how you get that data and how those tools are presenting and processing that is really key to each team's operation.
Well, I think you've hit on a number of points there. I think it's a really big philosophical discussion which is going to go on for quite some time. I apologize, I managed to slurp my
That's all
water down
right.
the wrong tube. But the but the point being is that, as I said before, I think teams that are willing to cross train, to
Sure.
learn, to kind of connect, I think that those teams are going to be more successful in the future because things are complicated. And yes, the language is different. Yes, what what that person is doing on Monday morning is probably different, etc. But the spirit being is if a network operations person can learn a little bit more about security and vice versa, you're
Yeah.
reducing your technology footprint. You're using the right tools in the right place. You're not duplicating tools. You're not buying two sets of everything and all of
Well,
those kinds
yeah,
of things,
that's a really
which
important
is
point.
very crazy.
That having two completely disconnected teams is really inefficient. I mean, if you're the CISO or you're your C-suite, you're trying to manage where you're putting your money. Do I need to put this much money into SecOps or NetOps? Actually, if you plan it properly and you put it into a combined set of tools that
Yeah.
feed into both teams, it's a
Yes.
win-win for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical, and I think that it's I think sometimes the network ops teams that I get the chance to talk to feel they've got the short end of the stick
Yeah.
really in the terms of budgets and things of recent years.
Hmm.
Hey, security, security, security. Now that's only going to increase. I'm not saying that changes particularly,
Yeah.
but seeing it as a single budget, working closely together to feed the right data comprehensively at the right time to the right set of tools for your use case and your business, I think you're going to find that that is I think that's going to be successful.
Yeah.
That's going to lead you as a team to greater success, I think, and that is something that we would I think is very powerful in terms of where we're going.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's really, it's, even though it's a hypothetical discussion, we're definitely going to see more of these, this
100%.
kind of convergence happening. I think, there's a number of pretty good reports that are out there about kind of how the CISOs are modifying their outlook onto to kind of that convergence, and it's an interesting topic for sure. No, appreciate your time as always, Iain. Great conversation. And again, just like to thank everybody, and again, remind you to please like and subscribe down below. Really helps us to understand the metrics. And again, if you have another topic or a new topic you'd like Iain and I to discuss, or if you have a different format you like, maybe you want something a bit longer where we dig maybe a little bit deeper into a specific topic, yeah, please do let us know in the comments or reach out to Iain and myself on LinkedIn. And again, we're more than happy to connect with you and talk as you see fit. So again, thanks everybody for your time. I have been Andy,
I've been Ian.
and we'll see you again soon.
Bye for now.